The newly formed Burton family is at home. John is watching an old movie, and Sally is doing laundry.
That's missing you.
Then why didn't you come down to the laundry room?
Well, I told you, Sally. I don't do laundry or windows.
Oh, John, you're such a romantic. I mean, there we were, both victims of unrequited passion when just a few steps on your part and we could have been requiting like crazy.
To tell you the truth, I did think of it.
But you wanted to see the end of the movie.
Besides, requiting gets really uncomfortable on top of a clothes dryer.
Answer me one thing, John. Does your not coming in for a little loving in the laundry mean the honeymoon's all over with?
Not quite.
Oh.
It smells good.
Clorox.
I like it.
And I hear if you inject it directly into your bloodstream, it cures COVID-19. In fact, if you do that, you'll never have to worry about getting sick again.
Well, whatever turns you on. Annette Funicello.
Annette Funicello was the female leader of the original Mouseketeers. All us little boys loved to watch the Mickey Mouse Club for the sketches and the songs. As we began to get upwards of 8, 9, 10, thereabouts, many boys noticed that Annette had gotten boobs. It became a big thing. I was one of those little boys, and when the other boys started talking about it, I didn't follow what the big deal was. By the time my glands started secreting, the show had been off the air for years, and they weren't even doing reruns anymore, so I developed my own fantasies, mostly involving Sally Field. These days, I can appreciate an attractive woman, but I don't want anything from her, and fantasies are a thing of the past. I'm okay with that because no fantasy could be better than life with my wife. It's like this, John. You need to maintain a strict separation between admire and desire. I can admire some guy's muscle car for what he put into it and the care he gives it. Do I want it? No thanks. My little Saturn Ion has everything I need and nothing I don't. I can admire Taylor Swift for a lot of things, but that's as far as it goes. I can admire Hugh Jackman. Not only is he amazingly talented, he's a major hunk. And his wife can have him. I don't want anything from him. Well, maybe a very long life so he can keep showcasing his talents, but that's it. Admire versus desire. Those who want to have a lasting relationship would do well to get familiar with the difference. I'm pretty sure John is, but Sally isn't convinced.
You were kissing me and having a sexual fantasy about Annette Funicello?
I wasn't having a sexual fantasy about Annette Funicello.
Yes, but you were thinking about her.
Well, that's not the same thing.
But you were thinking about her while you were kissing me. Why?
I was watching an old movie that she was in, and I guess she just flashed across my mind, that's all.
That's not all, John. She crossed your mind wearing a bikini.
Which she did a lot because she was in a ton of beach party movies with Frankie Avalon. The two of them were a buzzword. She is really overthinking this, and frankly, she's being ridiculous.
Look, I know this is silly. Promise not to laugh.
Oh, I won't laugh. Kill maybe, but I won't laugh.
Every guy growing up, we always had a girl that we wished that we could... That was our ideal.
It's true. Hey, Sally, guess who mine was?
Annette Funicello was your ideal.
I was only 14 years old. I happened to think that she was cute.
Cute. She wore Mickey Mouse ears.
I couldn't help it if my choice was a little offbeat.
John, I wouldn't say it was offbeat. Tell me, how'd you feel about the rest of the Mouseketeers?
Hey, Sally, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
But that doesn't matter. She does want to talk about it, and she won't leave it alone.
When you kiss me, I'd like it to be me you're kissing. Is that too much to ask for?
No, but it's asking too much for me to have to live with you constantly reading my mind. Sally, all men have fantasies. Most of them have the privilege, please, of keeping them private. I don't. You think that's easy?
Well, I guess it's something you're just going to have to learn to live with.
Maybe.
I said it last time. The biggest problem with their marriage is her big mouth. She doesn't have to tell him what he's thinking all the time, and if she would stop doing it, things like this wouldn't happen. but it seems like she doesn't even try to control the mind reading thing. With some practice, she could probably either switch it off for a time or at least muffle it. And in the absence of the ability to do that, there is something she can do, and I mentioned that last time as well. Shut up. John has had enough. He's going to bed.
At least it could have been Raquel Welch. I mean, I wouldn't have liked it, but at least I would have understood it.
Nah, her doohickeys were pretty well shoved in your face. Annette wore those heavy shirts or sweaters on the show, so she tickled your fancy with an air of mystery. Or so I've been told. Again, at that age, the whole thing was beyond me.
I don't want to talk about it, Sally.
How often do you think about her, John?
Not often. Sometimes I go 3 or 4 hours without giving her a thought.
Have you ever actually met her?
Only that one crazy weekend in Acapulco.
She doesn't get it. It's nothing, but she can't let it go.
Oh, well, that's classic, John. Trying to evade the truth with the jokes.
You know what else is classic? Blowing something so far out of proportion you turn it into a potential destructive force.
Good night, Doctor.
Counting sheep never works, John. Try mice.
A brief, shining moment, and then that mouth.
Well, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
There's nothing to beat or join. I don't know why this is getting to her so much.
You're a nut.
Well, not all the time, but I do have my lapses. Like last night, for instance. Honey, I'm really sorry.
All is forgiven.
Yeah, well, I know men fantasize. Why should it bother me?
If it helps any, most of my fantasies are about you.
Well, next time you get one, give me a call, will you?
Okay, deal.
When I lived in Wyoming, the young mom who lived across the alley behind us was my best friend. We took turns watching each other's kids, hung out at the park so the kids could play, and we could talk about anything. Her husband was a farmer, so he was gone most of the day, and the most amazing thing about those years is, in a town of 5,000 full of raging gossips, nobody ever started any rumors about us. Anyway, they eventually moved to a farmhouse outside of town. I went out to visit them one day, and husband was all excited to show me something in his shop. It was a poster of some woman in a skimpy bikini that he got at an auto show or something. She had signed it, Love and Kisses. He said, "What do you think of that?" I wasn't on any ADD medication yet, so I just blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. I said, "I don't think I could insult my wife like that." You know how quickly a tire deflates when it blows out? He was quicker. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked into the house while his wife stood there grinning. Fantasizing isn't necessary. It's self-indulgence as far as I'm concerned. It says I'm thinking about me, not about us. John and Sally are brand new at this marriage thing, so they may not understand that yet.
I mean, why shouldn't men fantasize? If women do, why shouldn't men, right?
Right.
I gotta get my stuff.
Wait a minute.
What do you mean, wait a minute? If it's good for the gander, it's good for the goose, dude. I doubt whether Sally actually does it or not, but she's going to get some mileage out of jerking him around about it.
Do you?
Of course. Get my shoes.
Wait a minute. Who do you fantasize about?
Oh, come on, John. I know you don't really want to know that.
I told you about Annette. It's only fair that I should know your fantasies. Who is he?
You mean them, don't you?
You mean there's more than one?
He gives her a pad and pen and says, "Write them down."
Wait a minute.
Wait a second, I'm not finished yet. How do you spell Fred?
3 heads of lettuce, 2 loaves of bread, 2 quarts of milk.
Had you going for a minute there, didn't I?
It's funny how it's okay for him to have his, but he wants an itemized list of hers. Double standard much? He's angry now, and he has no right to be. He's about to prove it.
Sally, come on, we'll be late. Sally?
I don't know. Her legs are good, but they're not that good.
I wasn't looking at her legs. I was looking at her legs.
And the word you're trying to think of right now that she's not going to help you with is busted.
Well, so you look at other women. It's human.
You mean male, don't you?
And female.
I always thought that women didn't look at men the same way men looked at women.
You thought wrong.
Well, then, why do women say that they're not interested in looking at men that way?
We lie.
Well, that about does it for today. John, you have anything you want to add? John?
What? Yes, sir. I'll take care of that right away, sir.
John may be a tad distracted by his insecurity.
All right, gentlemen. Meeting is adjourned. John, thank you. Everything okay at home?
Yes, sir. Yes, just fine. Everything's fine.
We know Henry Jones well on this channel. Today he's a lawyer, but we probably know him best as Jeremiah Smith, Dr. Smith's somewhat more gambling-addicted cousin. Lawyer Henry, today his name is Owen Metcalf, knows that just fine means things have turned to crap.
No matter how well you think you know a person, there always seem to be difficulties to iron out.
How long does it usually take?
Ooh, about 20 years.
Kidding, of course.
No, it's natural.
One of the reasons so many marriages fail today is because people jump into it too soon. Our genital happy society thinks if you had good sex, you'll be a good match. Not even. They would do well to refrain from sex and get to know each other as people and not as peepees. For that reason, they give up the moment they realize they have to deal with more than just getting it on. Mr. Metcalf is right. It takes time and willingness to change. What he doesn't know is John has a major complicating factor.
Two people have to adjust to each other. The only comfort is you know the other person's going through hell, too. That's the best part of marriage. It's a two-way street.
What if it's only a one-way street?
That's when they usually send for us lawyers.
A lot depends on what he means by that. If he's talking about her ESP, that's a serious concern. If he's talking about her fantasizing just like he does, he needs to grow up.
Listen, I thought maybe we could have a small dinner party tomorrow night. Invite, Jerry and George and Sheila Conway and maybe Anna. What do you think?
Since when do you have to ask?
Okay, John, enough with the small talk. You want to choose your weapons? What's your problem?
Why don't you tell me?
Well, I don't know. I just keep getting this big message.
What's that?
We're about to have one heck of a fight.
About what? I doubt he can even define it. But whatever it is, it's all her fault.
Well, of course I'm not trying to deny it. There's some men I meet I think are attracted to me.
No, everybody thinks you know, Sally. You meet some men and you know exactly what's on their mind.
Well, I can't help that.
That doesn't make me feel any better.
Oh, John, this is silly.
She's right, but he's too wrapped up in his own feelings of inferiority to see it.
Is it? What about George Conway?
Well, what about him?
You've invited him to the party tomorrow night. Is he attracted to you?
How should I know?
Because you can read his mind.
No, I can't. Does that make you feel better or you want to redirect?
She told him in the beginning that she can only read certain people. George isn't one of them.
How do I know you're telling the truth?
John, do you want me to pretend you didn't say that?
I don't want you to pretend anything, Sally. That's the whole point. You can pretend. You can lie. I can't do that.
John, I do not lie to you.
Then why are you yelling at me?
Because I always yell when I have to deal with a stubborn blockhead.
Besides, he's also yelling. He heads out to play poker with his brother and some buddies. After the game, he and Jerry are talking about his life with Sally and how difficult it is.
Every time I think of Annette Funicello, she knows.
John, could you give me something that I could identify with a little more?
It would be nice if he suddenly realized how dumb that sounds.
Listen, don't let it get you down. Every marriage has to go through a period of adjustment.
All right, but in this marriage, I'm the one who's doing all the adjusting. You think that's fair?
Kid, marriage is a partnership, a pact, a love match. Nobody ever said it was fair.
It sounds a little off, but he's right in a way. Sally has a unique gift, and if he wants to spend his life with her, he has to adjust to it. She's undoubtedly doing some adjusting of her own, but what he's having to deal with is beyond anything he could have imagined. So yes, it's a bit one-sided. Given the circumstances, it has to be.
$9.07.
I know.
That's one of the things he was complaining about to Jerry. He said when the other guys go home to their wives, if they want to, they can lie a little about how much they won or lost. He can't do that. My question is, why do you want to if you can't be honest with her about losing a couple of bucks at penny ante poker? You have a bigger problem than her ESP.
So after the card game, I took a long walk. I realize now that I acted like a fool.
I know. I know you realize. I'm sorry I called you a stubborn blockhead.
Why not? I acted like one.
And he's not done acting like one.
Would you like food, drink, or me?
2 from column A, 1 from column B.
I'm with you. Who needs column A?
And here it comes.
Why do I get the feeling something's come between us?
It's nothing.
Then why aren't we kissing?
It's just that it occurred to me that you know when I'm interested in making love.
You noticed, huh?
You may have also noticed that you can tell when she's interested too, and you don't have to read her mind, which is good because I think you've lost yours.
You know when I'm interested in sex, and I know that you know. But what you forget is that I don't know when you're interested or when you're not. And if I'm not thinking I don't know that you are or that you aren't, then you don't know. Right?
John, I'm going to bed.
Look in her eyes, John. Look at her smile. Look at the spread she prepared for you. You don't need to be a mind reader to tell what she's thinking about. She is about as loving and devoted a wife as any man could ask for. She has your back in everything you do. She keeps the house practically perfect, and she's interested in sleeping with you. Dude, quit your belly aching.
Sal, I'm not trying to pick a fight.
He's doing an excellent job of pretending he is, then.
Really, it's just that I've become aware of certain potential problems that I think we ought to talk about.
Yeah, you're right. I only wish you hadn't found them all out in the same day.
I know I frequently tell Sally to shut up, but right now it's John's turn. He's so far beyond ridiculous he couldn't even put it into coherent words, but he still thinks he has the high ground. Their dinner party is the next night. Jerry noticed that Sally wasn't singing.
Oh, I have a voice like Edith Bunker.
Well, that's all right. We're not exactly the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Hey, that's a good one.
We're not even the King family.
Oh, no, leave her alone. She's probably tired after that sensational dinner you cooked. It really was marvelous, Sally.
Thank you.
She seems really uncomfortable.
Excuse me.
Well, any requests?
Yeah, put the banjo away.
Oh, Jerry. Excuse me. How did that happen?
Well, I accidentally threw him against a wall.
Well, that would explain it. She'd rather not talk about it.
You're still mad at me, right?
No, John, I'm mad at me. I'm mad at me.
Where are you going?
To clear my mind.
This is always the big conundrum for the other spouse. Do I go after them and try to help, or do I back off and give them space? And most important, how do I know? There's only one answer to how you know, and it's the worst possible one: time. Practice. Getting it wrong a few times. Learning to understand the person who's the other half of you so you know when to hold them and when to fold them, so to speak. On the other hand, John can't stand to see her in distress, not to say pain, like this. He has to go after her.
Well, I guess I blew the Hostess of the Year award.
I don't care about that.
She knows very well what he does care about, and if she can't feel the love emanating from him, her gift is on the fritz.
When I was little, I really didn't know that I was different. Then when I was about 8 or 9, I met Amy Rundell. We had a lot in common. We suffered through math together. And we both had crushes on Rodney Bennell. And I just really loved her. And then one summer, her parents sent her away to camp. And I waited all summer for her to come back so I could tell her how I felt. And the day she came back, I went over to her house and I told her, and she said to me, "Oh, Sal, yeah, I missed you too." And I knew at that moment that I wasn't important to her anymore. And that I'd lost my very best friend.
Being telepathic isn't always a gift, John. It's also a curse.
I don't know. Sometimes knowing what people think when you don't want to know just really, really hurts.
This is something that never occurred to John. He's only been looking at it from his angle. It's high time he saw a little of hers.
Like tonight, for instance. Was Stephanie Jerry's girlfriend?
Stephanie liked you.
No, she didn't, John. Not at all. She liked you. I mean, she really, really liked you.
Remember the nice, insincere comment about dinner? Stephanie is about as real as a $9 bill, and Sally's ability won't allow her to not know it. She has to know that this woman not only doesn't like her, but has designs on her man, and she doesn't dare say anything. I can't imagine what that would be like.
I thought I had all the emotions under control. I just haven't had very much experience with jealousy. I guess I've never really been in love before. I'm really sorry.
And she genuinely thinks it's her fault all this happened. This girl has had to suppress herself to the point where it's unhealthy. She's been beaten down by others and herself until she's convinced her gift is something terrible that harms the people around her. By the way, if Sally Field isn't tearing your heart out right now with an Emmy-worthy performance, you may need to double check that you still have a heart. She had me in tears here because while I've never been able to read minds, I have been beaten down in much the same way most of my life, and frankly, my self-image isn't all that great, never has been. So I can feel what she's saying.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know, but I can't quite figure out why.
It's purely selfish. For the last 2 days, I've been just feeling sorry for myself. I thought that I was the one who had to make all the adjustments. It's nice to have company.
You always had company, John. She went from being single to being part of another person too, you know. You think that doesn't require adjustments even if you can read their mind? He's right. He was way up his own goosiks, but he's come out and didn't see his shadow, so things will start improving.
On the beach?
Too cold?
We'll make adjustments.
That's how it's done. You make your mistakes together and pull each other out of them. It's nice to see them figuring that out. And I agree, sex on the beach is a pretty good drink. Oh, wait, they newlyweds. Mostly involving slow down into it, so to that procedure. Our genital I can say that if and he cup. You may also have